Welcome to our first edition of the Time Maker podcast. This podcast is for any watch enthusiast. We cover topics as horology, entrepreneurship, and time management. Our guest today is Nathan from Trafford Watches, and we will discuss about launching a watch brand on Kickstarter, digital and smart watches, as well as his favorite timepieces. So it's now time to lay back, relax, and enjoy the show. Hi guys. Welcome to our first podcast, sponsored by Mint Evolutive, with Mike and myself, Alex. Mike's going to introduce our guest today.
Hi, guys. So today with us for our inaugural recording podcast, we've got Nathan Trafford, founder, owner, designer from Trafford Watch Company. Currently running a campaign on Kickstarter, kind of in its last few days, had some great success right out of the gate. So Nathan, why don't you go ahead, tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, and tell us a little bit about Trafford Watch Company.
Sure. Hi. Thanks for having me. I'm Nathan. I founded Trafford Watch Company, and like Mike said, we're in the last couple days of the Kickstarter, so super exciting. So humbling and awesome that it's been as successful as it has. So that's been really nice. I'm down here in Austin, Texas. Originally, I'm from England. If you can't tell by my accent or lack of. I'm born in England, lived there for quite a while, spent some time in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and been in Texas for like 20, 25 years now. So my day job, I'm a creative director at a small digital design agency down here in Texas. And on the side, I also design, or have been for the last few years, designing digital watch faces for smartwatches. So that's been kind of
very cool.
How I got into the whole making real watches. So that's me.
Segue into like, wow, like what if these really had hands?
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's been an interesting journey. I've always been a watch guy, you know. My brother and I have always, I feel like a year doesn't go by where my brother and I don't buy each other a watch at some point for a birthday or Christmas or something. But yeah, exciting. It's a little dream for me coming true by making this thing a reality. So
yeah, isn't that the truth? And I think there is, you know, from especially the Microbrand perspective, there's a lot of people that enter the industry obviously as enthusiasts, but lots of people like yourself and like Alex has a pretty extensive design background, kind of manufacturing background and stuff like that too. And you know, it's just bridging that professional and that hobby passion kind of world together, right? So Nathan, what advice would you have to giving somebody else who might be in the same kind of position as you that's thinking about making that leap from their current profession or occupation into bringing their dream and their first watch to life via Kickstarter or whatever other format?
Oh man, there's so much. I'll talk about the route that I went, which was Kickstarter, because that's all I know. But what I would tell others, a few things really. There's sort of base level things that I think you need to hit for launching a successful watch brand to start with. But on Kickstarter specifically, obviously you have to have a good design and fairly original. You have to have a connection with the watch community to start with. If you just go in blind and nobody knows you or you haven't been interacting with any of the watch groups in general, I don't think it's going to go well unless you're backed by $500,000 of marketing funds, you know.
Yeah.
The other things I would say are that you've asked a lot of questions of other microbrand owners. You know, that's truly where I would start. So you know what you're getting into, so that you know all the costs and that side of things. But then from a conceptual side, if you look at the ones that stand out on Kickstarter specifically, and this is something that I tell to other clients of completely different industries, you know, not just watches. when they're starting a brand or they're rebranding or whatever. It's one of the hardest questions that you have to be able to answer for yourself, and that is, what is your reason for existing, right?
Your why.
Yeah, what is your why?
Yeah.
And that's really hard to do, specifically in the watch world, because it's a watch. It's got hands. It goes on your wrist. There's only so much you can do. But if you can establish a reason for existing, it makes the whole process much, much easier, from marketing to design to everything else, because everything ramps back up to that question, right?
Totally.
So you look at other ones that were on Kickstarter, like Underdog.
Yeah,
was,
Underdog.
they have the watermelon looking one, and his whole thing was bringing some fun to watches. That the reason for them to exist is to just make horology a bit more fun, and that's awesome. That's his reason, and you can tell in the design and the way he marketed it. It all ramped back up to that. And for me, It's all about celebrating specific moments in time and being story driven at the very front. So literally, it's just finding a story and then pulling design elements out of that, and that's my reason.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that's when you can authentically connect with that also.
Right.
Your prospective customers and the people that you do engage with in the community, they're all very astute people. And when you're authentic with yourself and authentic with what your vision is for your brand, definitely going to have a lot more success in connecting with the people that are ultimately going to fund your project.
Right. Yeah. Like for a long time, I think people's companies' reason for existing that they would put on the likes of Kickstarter and stuff was like, we want to cut out the middleman and
disrupt. Yeah, we're going to disrupt the industry.
Disrupt the industry, cut out the middleman, luxury watches at
attainable
watch price, and it's like that doesn't work anymore. Like every other one is trying to do that, and it just doesn't work anymore. And it shouldn't.
Yeah.
It should be about something deeper than that.
Okay, so Nathan, who are the main people, I would say 3 people that might have influenced you in your career or in your everyday life, like you see as a role model? Or
Sure.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jesus. You're first. The first person I would say for the watches specifically is Kyle over at Stratton. Kyle has helped me more than anybody else, and just in terms of lay of the land type of stuff. Like, here's the things that you need to watch out for, pay attention to, and all that. He's the one that really got me going, and just a super, super nice guy too. Second, I would say Ariel Vardy. You guys don't know him probably, but he is the owner of Facer. Facer is a smartwatch watch face company.
Cool.
And it's this big community of watch face design, and he is the owner of that and brought me in as a partner designer. And through that, it's just where I got my feet wet in the actual watch design game, and refined a lot of my skills and stuff that way, which I think is really interesting. I think there's going to be a lot of new ways of doing things. It's a new way of prototyping, like testing watch designs on your wrist on a smartwatch. It's kind of cool. And then last person, go with one of my old typography teachers from college, Claudia Rauschman. Man, she everything in design can go back to good typography, and if you know good typography, everything else kind of comes easier. So I'll go with Claudia. She tore apart my portfolio my senior year of college, and it was the best thing that ever happened to me, probably. But yeah, okay.
What is the objective that you target when what you want to focus when you do a digital watch design?
Yeah, I missed some of that. You're breaking up a little bit.
Yeah, you kind of broke up in the middle there, but
I think I got the gist of it. And it's a really interesting world for sure. I'll say that because, like you can go to the site and they have the charts of the 100 most popular watch faces at any given time or anything like that. And a ton of them, like you said, they look real, and they look like real watches. Now they'll do things that our regular watches can't do, like tracking steps and heart rate and all these other crazy things. But it's just kind of funny what runs to the top in popularity, because this is a totally different crowd of people, right, that are wearing smartwatches every day and getting these watch faces and stuff, versus somebody that is totally in the mechanical watch world, the watch enthusiasts such as ourselves. It's just kind of funny that a lot of the times they gravitate towards the real looking ones anyway. It's just super interesting.
Yeah, wild, right?
Me. There's designers, there's tons of super, super talented designers. And I really think it's an interesting space for the future of mechanical watches and just horology in general and where things are going. There's some super talented conceptual ideas and thoughts that go on in that world that none of us really see too much because we're still in this mechanical world. But the ideas that happen over there are really cool. And they're kind of on the opposite side of it, right? Because they don't know where to start in terms of how do I make a real watch and how do I make that come to life. And that, I talk to those guys every day, the other partner designers over at Facer. Great guys, great designers, super talented people. And
I think
I'm
that's
kind of a guinea pig. I'm the first one that's doing it. This is kind of an industry first thing that we've been doing. And everybody's just like watching, like, is it going to work? How does this happen? Like, I get questions every day. It's like, how did you do this? So it's super, super interesting. And I think that anywhere that we can make bridges between smartwatch users and mechanical, traditional watch enthusiasts, anywhere that we can create bridges, I think is a good idea, because I don't think our mechanical watches are ever going to go away. I don't think that's going to happen, but there is a growing market of people in the smartwatch community that that are like kind of begging to be introduced to this mechanical world. So that side of it has been super interesting, and we've been kind of promoting it over there on Facer as well. It's kind of funny that this Kickstarter watch that I've been doing, you can go over to Facer and see and download a digital version of it onto your smartwatch, which is really funny because it's almost like a different format for selling a mechanical watch, because it's like you can try it before you buy it on your smartwatch, and then like looking at it that way and stuff. It's just really interesting, and it's kind of new ground that we're playing in. So
that in itself is a pretty cool concept, is like a try before you buy, like download our digital, obviously Trafford Watch Company Roadster, or download our digital Mint Defender, or whatever it might be, is very cool. And the other cool thing, like you said, like I think mechanical watches are, they've been around a lot longer than any of us have, and they're certainly renewable energy, especially the ones with an automatic movement. But it is, you talk about things that you do to set yourself and set your brand up for success and stuff like that, engaging in the community and the Facebook groups and all of that. But a big question for us that are very active in the groups, in the community, chatting with other brand owners, engaging with enthusiasts, is ultimately, if we want to be commercially viable and we want to be around for a long time, is how do we engage with the people that are on Facer downloading digital, watch designs for their smartwatches? Because we need, as much as I love and appreciate everybody in the enthusiast community, and met some really great people that way, is we need to grow that community, and we need to engage with those people that are outside of that community. And that's a really cool tool and cool part of horology that I personally wouldn't have really thought of before. And that's the world that you came from. So that's very cool.
Stumbled into it. You know, it was a complete accident. It was 5 years ago maybe or something. I was just bored and disgruntled at my job, and I was always sketching watches and stuff during meetings. And then one of my buddies at work was like, "Hey, you should try and make a watch face. Like, you can make those things work on a watch face." I'm like, "What?" Like, I didn't even own a smartwatch at the time. And he showed me this thing. I was like, "Oh man, okay." So I started designing these things before I ever even had a smartwatch. So it's kind of funny. But I'll tell you what has come out of this as well in terms of the brand. You know, right? At first, when I was just doing this online, it was Trafford watches. You know, it was just watch faces, digital thing. But then it's grown into a mechanical, real watch. The brand has kind of bubbled and gone on to mean something else. So what I've done to try and counteract that a little bit and you know, define the two areas, if you will, the traditional watch and the smartwatch area, is I've sort of evolved the facer digital watch face area into what I'm calling Trafford Labs. And it's just a place for me to play now. It's a place for me to test designs, test out things, not in just a sense of like testing it out and putting it on my wrist and seeing what it looks like and seeing how these hands balance with each other and stuff. But it's also a way to test with the community, like what designs resonate with people.
Yeah.
You know, there's like weird risk factor of like, oh, some of the people are going to steal this design, you know. So there's always some stuff like that, but just at a high level, and they can comment on these things. People can comment on them. So, you know, it's like getting community interaction before you produce a million watches and get them out into the world. It's kind of a powerful thing. And
yeah, it's cool.
So yeah. I would highly recommend to any new brands or even people that are interested in designing watches. I think it's a great route to go to start with, just to test and have fun and play. I really think you should design like 100 watches before you ever jump in and land on something that you actually want to go with. And that's a great economical way to do it as well.
It is. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Nice.
Anyway.
Maybe a future collaboration with Mint Evolutive and Trafford Labs.
Why not? No, I'll hook you guys up. I'll get you in touch with Ariel. Like I talked about Kyle over at Stratton. He's got Stratton watch faces on Facer now.
Oh yeah, cool.
You can download them and buy them and stuff. So it's interesting.
Yeah, very neat. Okay, where do we want to go now? That's super neat, man.
A little different.
Something I never would have connected the dots on that personally. And thought,
yeah, that's the thing. Like when you talk about that digital face, it was like there is something to dig in there. And to tell you honestly, like mechanical watch used to be functional, but now they're more of a fashion accessory, if I may say, or an accessory for men, where the smartwatch took that place of functionality. And then of course, like someone like Mike or even myself, not to that extent, but we are like trying to keep fit. Like we will do like a lot of different exercise and things like that. And those smartwatch, they give you the possibility to, as you say, to track your cardio when you're doing trekking. You have many different tracking devices to see about your steps, about your cardio, about the time you're gonna run, the distance, like all those things that not unfortunately, but that by essence a mechanical watch cannot give you, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So like, how do you see that thing evolving? How do you see those two markets like staying aside from each other and trying to compete each other? Because it's also funny to see that digital watch guy will use watch face of a Patek or a Straton or whatever it is, you know, of a more classical model to mimic this thing, which they don't really need to do because they have those functionality at the back of the product. I mean, in the technology itself, that could go a complete different way in terms of design, but they still choose to stick to that traditional three hands watch face.
Yeah, it's interesting. There are different like subsections of the digital watch face area. You know, there are the rip-offs, you know, where they're just
Yeah.
copying stuff, and that's nobody's cool with that. Nobody's wants that, or you know, like Facer cracks down on it as much as they can to
Okay.
remove it. But there are those people that they want a Rolex or whatever, and the only way they can afford to get a Rolex is to put a fake one on their digital watch, you know. So that's something. But as far as how the markets come together or separate, I do feel like the onus is more on us, the traditional watch guys, to not necessarily start to mimic or like what's the word, over exaggerate ourselves or try to like do things that smartwatches do. To me personally, I don't think that's it. Smartwatches are there for that reason. They're cool. You know, I don't wear a mechanical watch to tell me how my heart's doing or you know how many steps I've gone or to notify me when I get an email from work. That's the last thing I want my watch to do, really. But I do think that kind of like what I talked about earlier is just tapping into that market to introduce. There are people there that are wanting to be introduced to the traditional watch world. They wear these things for the look. You know, they download these specific watch faces for the look, not necessarily for what it does. So I just think there's untapped potential in there, and you know, you look at a lot of the watch brands like Montblanc or Citizen recently released one. You know, they're starting to release smartwatches that
Even Tag Heuer.
you
Tag
know,
Heuer had a huge program on this.
Yeah, Hoyer did it.
You
Yeah,
remember the name of the watch?
Heuer, yeah, it's
the Connected.
There was like a modularity point.
Tag Connected was the name of that one.
Connected, yeah.
And then under Citizen Group, like Citizen Group did it with Frederic Constant and with Alpina with the HSWs, the horological smartwatches. So they had some like quartz powered three-handers that had smartwatch functions built into the watch head. And then they had autos that had like a module
yeah.
on the backside with the clasp that tried to like capture some smartwatch features.
Yeah. That stuff's interesting to me. I you know, I'm all about exploring and doing all those crazy things because like when you think about it, smartwatches, they have a shelf life. Those $5,000 Mont Blanc or you know the tag, those are done in a couple of years. Those are going to be obsolete, you know, and it's all because of the hardware inside it, and the you know they're not going to be able to compete with a $300 watch in 5 years in terms of how it works and how snappy it is and the stuff that it can do. So those ones are like really confusing to me and why they exist. You know, I think it's those brands wanting to get into that market of the smartwatch, but I don't know. It's like I can't.
Well, they're disrupting the industry without cutting out the middleman.
That amount of money I'm going to throw away in 3 years. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's wild, but
nice.
I don't know what the answer is for the future of these things, but I do know that there is a market there for both.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I could totally agree.
Yeah. So Nathan, sorry. One of the main point of this podcast in the first place is to talk about time and people relation with time. So how do you kind of like manage your time on projects or anything like that? Anything related to your work environment, and also your life balance as well. If you want to share something about it.
Sure. I'll start with work-life balance. I think that's probably easier for me. we're on the back end of a pandemic, right? And so that has been a blessing in disguise for me. This whole thing probably wouldn't have happened in the timeline that it did if the COVID didn't happen. There's obviously a ton of terrible things happen with COVID, but for me personally, there were some good things. And one of the major things with that has been getting a little bit of time back with everyday stuff. My commute to work used to be, it would take 2 hours out of my day every single day. And then you're kind of worn out from driving and all that. So as soon as we started working from home, I got two plus more hours every day and a lot more mental space to think about things and do. So that was one of the things that I didn't think about but did happen that has helped me over the last year. But as far as regardless of COVID and the time that I've gained back from that, I have a toddler. I have a 3-year-old. She just turned 3. So time management is just kind of hard in general, right? And something I've learned over the last 3 years is to just be fluid and willing to change and to roll with whatever changes happen, because having a toddler will teach you that anything will happen. The only certainty is change with a toddler. So with work, it's been like, put that in a box and deal with that. Life, that stays in its own box. I try really hard to be done at 5 o'clock every day, and 5 to 7 or 8 whenever she goes to bed. That's family time. Most of the weekend is family time. And then when you're doing this entrepreneurial stuff on the side, it's just finding the time for that and making a schedule for yourself.
So that's the thing. Planning for you. Planning is the key, and having kind of a routine, timeline is really the key.
100%, and it goes for everything, right? For planning what time you will devote to working on this, to what you're working on this, your day job, to your family. Having it, planning these things. It's kind of funny because I'm like the creative one in my family, and my wife is a project manager, and I've learned, since we've been together, how to better manage all my time and stuff. But really, with work, move into the work side of it and projects specifically, the more you can plan ahead, the better as well. I talked a little bit earlier about having your reason why and your reason for existing and stuff. All of that is just planning as well, because once you know that, everything else ramps up to it. And it's the same sort of thing. When you can plan ahead and decide those things, you're limiting the number of decisions that you have to make on this whole journey of the project. And that just makes things more streamlined and faster and makes the decisions easier. There needs to be a whole area or set of time for playing and being creative and doing those things. And I've gotten to where, this is my life, I'm a designer by trade. So I've just gotten to the point where I'm just super fast at that stuff to start with. And I actually spend more time on the researching and the planning and that side of things now, which is interesting because that's not how I started when I was younger. But I've just come to realize the importance of planning and setting out as many things as you can, because I'm a firm believer that the more boundaries that you can set for yourself in anything really, but in design and concepting, the more boundaries that you can set for yourself, the better. And those boundaries can be anything. It can be physical things. If we're talking about design, it can be physical things about the watch. I want a chronograph. I want it to be, vintage inspired, whatever. I want it to be this kind of color palette or whatever. I'm setting boundaries for myself before I ever even start designing, so there are less places to go and play, and it just makes the thing more concise and make more sense in the end.
More
And you can apply that thinking to most everything.
Yeah, totally. You know, it's a really good point you made there too. You know, the reality of things is that we've all been living in a pandemic world for the last, 12 to 14 months, depending on what corner of it you live in. A lot of focus obviously has been placed on what's been taken away from us, right?
Sure.
From people who've lost loved ones, obviously lost businesses, incomes, travel, whatever else. But you hit the nail on the head, and I've said this multiple times also, is a gift that it's given many is that gift of time.
Yeah.
Time, for those of us that are fortunate enough to be able to work from home for our professions, less time commuting, like more time with your loved ones. Some people more time with themselves, more time to focus on a passion project, little things like I've got. Definitely, yeah.
So we kind of realize that we've been too far in the globalization. So people want to come back to something more authentic, and by being able to work remotely, then you will attribute your time to something more authentic, like your family, or maybe a side project, a passion project, something, a hobby, something that you likes, makes you feel fulfilled, makes you feel good, instead of and then less stress, because commuting, as Nathan was saying, like even me, takes me 50 minutes to go to work. So Nathan is driving, you get certain type of stress. Then you're in public transportation, wherever, the train, whatever, people pushing you, this kind of, especially in Asia, we have the number of inhabitants per square kilometer, the density of huge. So you're in a constant crowd, like the US or even Canada. For Mike, you use like have houses, you have space, you have gardens. Here we're like in tall buildings, because it's a small island. You need to place everybody, so it's like density is huge. Everywhere you go in the MTR, it's like crowd everywhere. It's like
yeah, definitely. I guess in the interest of time.
That pandemic really brings that kind of opportunity to actually take time for ourselves and reconnect with ourselves somehow.
100%. I totally agree. I guess in the interest of time and bringing it back around to the watches too, as we kind of draw near the end here. So yourself as a self-proclaimed watch enthusiast, bitten by the bug that so many of us have been bitten by. How many pieces would you say you've got in your own personal collection?
I looked in my drawer today before I knew we were going to do this, and I'm somewhere around 40. I think I have them in some other drawers somewhere. I don't have any like Rolex or any of the super expensive luxury brands. I've never kind of been that.
Yeah.
In general, I don't know. Nothing against those. There's some beautiful, beautiful watches out there that I would love to have, but financially it's never been viable for me. So I have a lot of micro brands, which I always love wearing those. My current favorite that I'm wearing today, I don't know if you guys can actually see that. This is Fairer out of England.
Nice.
I love Fairer. I don't know if it's just the British in me, but the way they design, the colors that they use, I'm just a very big fan. I've been trying to decide what my self-congratulatory watch is going to be for launching a successful Kickstarter, and it's probably going to be another Fairer. I just
awesome.
Question for the Fairer watch: is it a watch that you purchased online, or it's a watch that you purchased in a retail store?
I bought it online. Honestly, I don't remember the last watch I bought in a store.
Okay.
Just because I think mostly I'm into micro brands these days.
Yeah.
And that's hard to come by.
You don't see
the only ones that you see in stores down here are Jack Mason. I don't even know if Jack Mason is a micro brand anymore. But they they're from Texas, so I see a lot of those down here.
Yeah, it makes sense, right?
So you don't see any issue with putting the trigger on an item that is up to $1,000 block you
Well,
not try physically to watch.
I think most people, Farrah does for sure, but I think most companies these days, their return policies are really good. You try it for 30 days. If you don't like it, send it back. I think the world is slowly coming around to that, just in general. With trying clothes and stuff and shoes, there's the shoe market.
Yep.
You can just return them the next day if you want. So I haven't returned any watches. I keep them all, but
so other than your own up and coming watch, what would you say your favorite piece in your collection is? Is it a pair?
Yeah, it's this one. This is the Ferris green.
Sweet.
I have a Laco. I don't even know how to say it. Laco, that my brother got me for my birthday. That gets a ton of wrist time.
Sweet.
And a couple others that get more than others, but yeah, fair. Get the most wrist time for me.
You're about to face a real problem when Trafford really gets up and going here. Is the challenge of leaving your home wearing a watch other than the watch that's
I know
you put your name and your face behind.
I have to
and having that awkward conversation when you bump into somebody you haven't seen for a while or something like that, and they say, "Oh, like, how are things going with the watches? Like, are you wearing one?" And you say, "No, I got my cover up the wrist."
Yeah, I need to be one of those like classic watch salesmen with the coat and stuff, and just have a bunch of traffic.
Just open it up.
Yeah, and so I'll call it my watch coat.
Yeah, that's great.
I got a question for you guys.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
So my question for you guys is, what is the goal with this podcast? What do you guys want to do with this? I know I'm the first that you're having on, so sorry that you have to deal with me. What's the long-term goal of doing this?
It is, yeah. I think the other component of it too, at least from my side of it too, is, and Nathan, you and I talked about this also, is just like that engagement within the community as a whole, right? Engagement between brands together, like you said, with Kyle's shoot being instrumental in you getting Trafford off the ground. Is humanizing the microbrand industry, humanizing the brand partners, brand owners, showing that there really is a connection, more than just that financial connection between customer and brand, but there is that real community connection. Not that I'm saying that every single brand owner, brand partner, or consumer out there has genuine interest in that, but I've made some really fantastic quality connections with other people on the brand side of the industry, and a lot of customers, a lot of enthusiasts, prospective customers that might not ever even buy one of our Mint watches, that I just really enjoy engaging with, right? Learning from and getting to know, and all over the world too. So it's super cool from that perspective also.
Absolutely. I think a lot of people probably don't realize that most of the time with micro brands, it's just one guy over here. It's one person doing these things. And you buy a Casio or Timex or whatever. Yeah, it's a big faceless corporation pulling designs from a catalog that they have sitting around for eternity. With micro brands, you're working with the person most of the time that has done 99% of the work. So I think that connection, it's like buying local. You're supporting somebody who's passionate about their dream, which is I think a nice thing just in general. Definitely.
Well, yeah, we certainly do appreciate it. Let's take a minute right now and just roll past your campaign on Kickstarter for Trafford.
Sure. You want me to talk about it at all, or
let everybody see that, and then we'll have a couple closing comments and go from there.
Sounds good.
Yep. Nice.
So here's the Trafford Watch Company Roadster. So as we can see, Nathan's ran a super successful campaign here, hit his funding goal. We got a few days left, but yeah, what can you tell us about it?
Man, it's based in story, like we've talked about. I found this absurd, crazy story about these famous race car drivers that when World War II hit, everything ground to a halt, and they became spies for the British government and were instrumental in changing the course of history in the world and stuff. And that's just kind of the idea behind Trafford Watch Co. in general, is finding these moments in time to celebrate, and through the medium of watchmaking, which may sound cheesy to some, but I don't know. It's just combining a few of my favorite things, which is history, storytelling, and watches. And it's just kind of a natural thing for me. So it's just been really fun. I've gone and looked at some of the cars that these things are inspired by. The Bugatti Type 35 is a super legendary car, but it's beautiful too. So a lot of design inspiration is pulled from cues from that car specifically, but also just little notes from their lives and stuff, you know. So like the whole front side of the story of the watch is based on the public facing side of their lives. It's all about the racing. And then the back side of it, the case back, is all about their hidden side of their lives, you know, because that's the hidden side of the watch, is all about the espionage and that side of their life. So it's been fun. It's been a wild ride, learning all the ins and outs of Kickstarter specifically, but going out and talking to reviewers, getting those things done, has been really, really fun. So
Awesome.
It's been a financial success for sure. You know, it got funded. That was truly the goal, was for it to just get funded. The fact that it went higher is for sure a blessing, but it's also been a wonderfully successful learning experience for myself as well. So
nice. So as of right now, you got a couple early bird seats left.
Yeah.
So I guess pricing starting at 300. And what date is your campaign wrap up?
It ends on the 31st, which is a Wednesday, and it ends at 10 a.m. on that Wednesday, my time. I'm in Central Standard Time. So whatever that is for everybody else, I don't know.
Nice.
Wednesday morning.
That's great. That's something I think also that people don't realize sometimes, especially in this microbrand world, is when you talk about managing time, is managing time zones, and the fact that you're going to be talking to, brands and customers and suppliers all over the world. So it's pretty interesting, when we set something like this up, Alex over in Hong Kong, myself in Canada, Nathan and myself not too far off time-wise, but Alex and I face down a 14 or 15-hour time difference, depending on daylight savings time, throughout the year. So really cool to be able to connect on a global basis like this too. So
Nathan, thank you so much for participating to our first podcast. It was really great to have you talk about like the creative process, digital watches, all kind of things that we addressed today. It's awesome to see that your campaign, your Kickstarter campaign, performed really, really well. It's well deserved because you really put a lot of work in those nice looking designs. We really wish the brand the best for the future, and hopefully we also wish to be able maybe to collaborate cross brand or any kind of operation that we can do together. It would really be awesome. So until then, guys, you stay safe and be creative and believe in yourself, right? And try to do something that make you feel good, right?
Hey, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. It's been fun.
Yeah, thanks a lot, guys. It was a great inaugural Managing Time podcast, and looking forward to bringing our next guest on in the coming days or weeks. And we're going to see more of Nathan, Trafford Watch Company, and the rest of the community in the future.
Hi guys, I hope you enjoyed the show. It was a bit chaotic. It was the first episode. We will definitely improve for the next round. Please give a like and a subscribe if you think that the value was there, it was worth it, and we'll keep you posted for the next episode. Until then, stay safe and be cool.